Welcome back, Seekers and Saints, to Fire in the Bones vlog, and even though it's a little bit late, happy Easter. That's right, this vlog is going to be heading back to Easter Sunday. A little bit of housekeeping. I fully intended to watch the previous week's sermon, that is this week's, but then I had a baby, or rather my wife did, so that got a little bit turned upside down. Very happy, very blessed to have our little girl, but that kind of got in the way. So we're really going to go back to referring to my notes about Easter Sunday. And this is a good one because to me, Easter is one of those Sundays that believers celebrate, but when you go there, you know the pastor is going to be really speaking to non-believers, which is good, by the way. This is not a criticism, because at the end of the day, Easter is one of the biggest events or biggest Sundays for non-Christians to attend. So they really have to tailor that for new people. And I would do the exact same thing. But for a believer, you really have to start to think to yourself, what does Easter mean to me? There has to be some self-application, because it can get very easy just to show up and go, yeah, he is risen indeed, and let it become rote. So I tried to make a personal application. I did that this year. I also happen to be able to make it based upon Pastor Shane's sermon of Easter Sunday. So I want to go over today a personal application and then a personal application based upon Pastor Shane's sermon of Easter. So the first one is mine. In Japanese traditional culture, they have the idea of the geisha. A geisha is a woman who is made up and she entertains. She's not a prostitute. Her job is to be good at the art of conversation and entertaining. Men pay her for their company, to talk to them, to entertain them, and to most importantly, bear their souls. Because at least traditionally, men in Japan, you had to hide who you were to the world, but not to a geisha. To a geisha, you could expose everything, your deepest secrets and everything, and a geisha kept it. And culture held that she had to keep it. So if you're wondering, where am I going with this? What connection does this have with Easter? Well, let me tell you. Remember, when Jesus said, "It is finished," what tore? The veil. The distance between us and God. Now, Jesus is personally connected to us. I would never condone, by the way, especially for a married guy, to do geisha culture. That's not biblical by any sense. But it does provide a neat representation of how Jesus is for us. We are supposed to be so close to Jesus that all of the relationships look like hate. Think about that. And that's what Jesus' death and resurrection on the cross did. It bridged that gap between us and God. That's the final key in the gospel. The reconnection with God was because of the resurrection. It's hard to share our hearts with people sometimes. Maybe there's a lot of regret, insecurity, shame. We feel like we're going to get judged, and maybe someone's going to use what we said against us. Jesus doesn't do that. Jesus wants us to bear all. Just like in geisha culture, but the difference is we're not paying for it. Jesus made the payment on the cross so we could come to him. Think about it. He knows our hearts. He knows us better than anyone else. In Romans 8:27, it says he knows our innermost being. In Jeremiah, he tells us that I knew you. I knit you in your mother's womb. I know you better than anyone else. Come to me. I already know the answer, but I want to hear you say it, is what Jesus is thinking. I mentioned Luke 14:26, where Jesus says that you should love him so much, I'm paraphrasing here, but you should love him so much that everything else looks like hate. Same thing here. You should bear so much to Jesus that it looks like you're lying to your spouse. Again, I'm not saying you should lie to your spouse or friends or loved ones, or you should hate anyone. I'm just saying by comparison. And so that's what the cross and the resurrection mean for us. A connection with God that is so intimate and so wonderful that we can bear everything without being judged. So where's the sermon connection? Well, in Philippians 2, 1 through 5, we're told to tend to one another. This is kind of echoed in Galatians 6:2, by the way, with carry each other's burdens. In this way you'll fulfill the law of Christ. You know, we can also share with others in a similar way. And sure, we can't open up to others like we do Jesus, but we could still lean upon each other. That's how a church thrives. Think of it this way, like a brick wall. So a brick wall has the foundation, and for us that would be Christ. Everyone can rest on Christ. But then each brick builds upon the other. Now, is one brick going to touch every other brick in the wall? No, of course not. As a matter of fact, it's probably okay if within the church you only have a few close confidants that you bear all with. I'm not saying you shouldn't love or respect everyone in the church, but you're going to naturally gravitate and connect to some people over others, and that's fine. As long as you don't antagonize others. But you're going to bear all to certain mentors or mentees, and that's okay. Because in the same way that one brick supports these two support two more, and those two support two more in turn, and on and on and on, so that at the end you have this large, strong wall. And what's great about that is there's no door in that wall. When people come in and they want to be part of that support structure, they don't want to leave. They don't want to get knocked out. So Easter gives us not only the blueprint to be connected by God, but it also gives us the blueprint of how to connect to others. And really that's what Easter is a celebration of. The reestablishment of relationship. The reestablishment of us to God and also us to each other to carry each other's burdens. Really, that's the conclusion of the matter, isn't it? Easter provides us the personal supportive connection to God so we can be a support to the whole church. That's it for today on Fire and Bones Vlog. I'll catch you next week and have a good day.